Dear students, I have come with a new module, how we can collect the data. You know that there are two types of data, primary data and secondary data. So in this module, I am going to explain collecting data and 5 methods of primary data collection with the merits and demerits I will explain. So let us come to the first point, that is choice between primary data and secondary data. So how you decide whether we have to go for primary data or secondary data when you are doing a research? So this is decided based on the following factors. First is nature and scope of inquiry. Now you know that we are facing COVID. So this is a first-hand experience. There is no secondary data collected for this. So what we can do, that we have to collect the primary data, the impact of COVID in our lives. We have to collect the data and we have to make the research based on that. So that is very important. Nature and scope of inquiry will decide whether we have to use primary data or secondary data. Second one is availability of time and money. See, sometimes the researchers will get a task. Within immediate they have to give the result, or within 1 week, or within 15 days, within 1 month they have to give the result. That meaning there may not be time for collecting primary data. And the data they are going to use. See, for example, if it's about savings, RBI has the data, or National Sample Survey, they have the data. So that data, secondary data, they can use and they can work on the research. So availability of time and money is another important factor in deciding whether we have to use primary data or secondary data. Next is degree of accuracy required. See, if you are doing any scientific experiment, the decimal values also will count. It is accurate, the accurate results we are looking for. Whereas in social science, if you ask somebody about the income or expenditure, they will not give the exact value. They will give a rough value. So that also can be considered as an accurate value, because that is the accuracy we are expecting in social science. Next is the status of the investigator. That is whether an individual is doing the survey or a private agency is doing or a government is doing. See, in the case of individual, they don't have much time, they don't have much money, they don't have much resources. So even if they are collecting a primary data, they will always try to limit the number of respondents. Whereas if it's a private agency, sometimes it will be sponsored by an organization. Then they have the resources, they can appoint respondents, they can appoint investigators, and they can collect the data. Whereas if it's government, they have the time, they have the money, they have the resources. So they can collect detailed primary data. So this also is an important factor in deciding whether we are going for primary data or secondary data. So whether it is individuals doing the research, private agencies doing the research, or government doing the research will decide whether we are going for primary data or secondary data. Now, relying on secondary data. See, I told you government, RBI, LIC, National Sample Survey Organization, many banks, they collect lot of information. So we can use the secondary data if you're doing anything related to that secondary data, and our research want to use that data as the information. So this relying on the secondary data, how far we can trust that secondary data. First thing you have to see that whether the source of data, you have to see that whether it's by an approved organization, if it's an recognized educational institution, or it's a government, LIC, RBI, any bank, or it's the government, central government or state government. So the whoever collected the data, the source will be mentioned in that. So based on that, you have to take the reliable data. Second one is true significance of data. So true significance also, when you are looking at the expenditure pattern or savings pattern or bank investments, bank deposits, you have to see that if you are looking at the bank values, then you have to see that any data published by RBI will be a reliable information. You can use that information. That will be correct because they have the strong research team and they are doing the research accordingly. Then completeness, that is very important. The data should be complete and it should be from the reliable source. When government is doing that, or National Sample Survey is doing that, or RBI is doing that, or any state government or central government, it will be a complete information. And method of collection. So that also they will be explaining how we have collected the data. See, for example, if you look at the census figures, they will explain how they have collected, what was the method of data collection used, how they collected the data across the country. So this is very important. We have to see that it's collected in a systematic manner. Then only you can use the secondary data for your research. Now, methods of collecting primary data. I told you there are 5 methods, and I am going to explain each and every method with the merits and demerits. First one is direct personal interview. Second is indirect personal interview. Third is information through correspondence. Fourth is mailed questionnaire method. And fifth is method of schedules. So, I am going to explain each and every method in detail. Now, the first one, direct personal interview. So here in this method, you have to remember that investigator directly collects information from respondents. See, for example, my PhD thesis was about savings of the household sector with special reference to Kerala. So I met the respondents directly and I collected the information. So that is how I collected. So I will approach them with a questionnaire and I will fill the data. So that is how I directly collected the information from the respondents. So another example, if I'll give, spending habits of high income group. So if it's a high income group, how I have defined the high income group, I will specify in my research. So that respondents I will directly approach and I will collect the information. Then it will be direct personal interview. That means researcher is collecting information directly from the respondents. So the merits of this method, if you'll see that it's reliable. See, when I am mentioning high income group, when I'll meet them, I know that their spending habit is different from other people. So that information what I can collect, I can use my common sense, I can relate with the data what they are giving me. So that is reliable information. Second one is investigator can twist the questions. See, sometimes all the respondents may not open up about when we are asking about their saving habits or spending habits. So I can twist the questions or the respondents to the level of, we can reach the level of respondents and we can collect the information. Then the comfortable language. See, language is a barrier always in communication. See, if you want to go to the mother tongue and we have to explain, some people feel comfortable that way. So you have to go to the comfortable language of the respondent and you can collect the information. This is another merit of this method. Next is additional information can also be collected. See, when I was doing my research, most of the times I have seen that when I am collecting primary information, sometimes I may not expect that information. But some respondents, they will go out of the way and they will give additional information which will be valuable insight for the research. So in direct personal interview, since we are meeting the respondents directly, we can collect additional information. Now, there are demerits also for this method. So first point is bigger inquiry with more respondents is not possible for this method. See, I could experience that when I was collecting my data, I had to travel throughout the state and some respondents are not willing to give the information. So bigger inquiry with more respondents, it's not possible. Then second point is difficult to collect personal information. See, I told you my data was about collecting about the savings. So they have to tell me about their income, they have to tell me about their loan, they have to tell me about their expenditure pattern, lot of personal information. Sometimes I found that they are not willing to reveal that information. So that is difficult to collect personal information. Similarly, if I'll ask somebody about the drug addiction, alcoholism, they will not be ready to give the information. So it's very difficult to collect personal information using this method. Next is not possible to cover respondents from wide geographical area. I already told you, if you have to travel and you have to collect information, meeting respondents from everywhere, it's very difficult, especially if you're doing it as an individual. If you're doing it in a group and you're getting a lot of funds for that, then you can travel as a group and then you can collect the information. Then it will not be a barrier. But if you're collecting as an individual researcher, especially when you're doing for your MPhil or PhD, this method has got its own limitations. Now we are coming to the second method, that is indirect personal interview. So this is information is collected from people who are directly or indirectly connected with the subject matter of inquiry. So in the last method we have seen that some information we can collect directly from the respondents, whereas some cases they will not be willing to give the information. See, for example, if I want to collect information about drug addicts, alcoholism or a dowry death, anything like that, then they will not be ready to give the information. So how I'll collect the information? That is, I will collect information from people who are associated with them. See, if it's in the case of a student, then I can collect the information from the parents or from the friends or from the classmates. So like this we will collect the information. So the persons from whom data is collected is known as witness or informants. In the case of an accident site, we cannot collect the information directly from the respondent. He might be shifted to the hospital. So the witness will be there. So from them we will collect the information, or the informants. Another example, if I'll give that, information about drug abuse, dowry death, rape case, commissions appointed by the government. In all these cases, they are using indirect personal interview, because it is not possible to collect the information directly from the respondents. So those who are related to them, those who are associated with them, we can collect the information. Now, continuing with that, this method is suitable in the following cases. First one is if direct sources do not exist or not dependable, or the respondents are not willing to give information. See, for example, in the case of a dowry death, if you go to that family, they will not be ready to give that information. They will be angry if the press will go, anybody, they will be shouting at everyone. So you can ask the neighbors whether they were fighting, what is the reason, do you have any idea? So like that, this method is useful in such a situation. Second one is if the inquiry is extensive. If we had to collect information from the entire country, see the impact of COVID for India. So if you want to collect, it's not possible to collect from the entire country. So what we will do, we will divide it into different states, and from state itself we will decide how we can collect, from where we want to collect. So this we will collect the data if we have to cover extensive research. Next is merits of this method is that investigators can use their skills to collect the data. So it's mainly, we are not collecting directly information from the respondents. We are collecting information from those who are close to them. So we have to remember that we have to use our tactics, skill, and to use our expertism in collecting the information. So that is how we can collect the information. We have to talk to them, we have to convince them about the need for collecting this data. Then we can collect the data. Limitations of this method are reliability of data is based on the selection of informants. See, sometimes if you are a TV reporter, if you go to an accident site, you don't have the patience to collect information. If you are collecting information from somebody who is going there that side, or somebody who is waiting there, that will not be the correct information. You should have the patience to collect the information, and to collect the information directly from the informants or the witness. Those who happen to see that at that site at that time when the accident happened. So this is very, very important, because you are collecting information from another people or another person. So this is very important. Then success of this method depends on the skill of investigators. How you can convince the informant, how you can communicate with the informant. You can communicate that this is important to collect the information. See, in the case of a drug abuse, or in the case of a dowry death, we have to collect the information, then only we can take the corrective measures. So once the informants are clear about that, what we are doing, why we are collecting this data, then they will help us in collecting the data. Now, third method is information through correspondence. So information through correspondence, this method, investigator appoints correspondents or local agents. We know that how newspapers are collecting information, or TV channels are collecting information. They have correspondents everywhere, every district or every state. Wherever they have to collect information, they have the correspondents. So these correspondents will submit their reports periodically. Maybe if something is happening on that day, immediately they will be giving the information. Or once in a day they have to report, or once in a week they have to report. Like that they will collect the information and they will send it to the head office. The newspapers and news channels adopt this method for data collection. So this is how we will get the information. And government also collects birth and death statistics through this method. Every village, every panchayat, every corporation, any death or any birth we are registering. So that will be the data for the government to collect the information from the country about birth and death statistics. Now the fourth method is mailed questionnaire method. This method is very common. Every day when we will open the mail, we can see that somebody will say that I am doing research, this is my topic, you have to fill the questionnaire and give. So this is the fourth method, mail questionnaire method. So first point is questionnaire can be defined as an instrument for collecting information from a number of persons supposed to possess it by making them record their replies to a number of questions. So you have to remember that. So this is the method, we are making it a system. We are approaching a respondent with a questionnaire. Questionnaire is a list of questions. See, if you want to collect the information about the bank deposits in the country, so who all are the depositors, we will be collecting information from them. So you have to ask them about the details. What are the nature of the account you are keeping, whether it's an SB account or a current account, how many years you have been a customer with the bank, which bank you are you regular to the bank, all this information we have to collect. So any topic, your topic of research, you will frame the questions accordingly. On that basis, you will collect information from the respondents. So this is more systematic, because whatever you want to collect, it's clearly mentioned in the instrument. The other methods which I have explained earlier, this is whatever you feel like you are asking on the spot. You are collecting information. You are not using a questionnaire. So here in this method, we are making it more systematic, and you are using a questionnaire for collecting the data. Then this method is used to collect data from a large population. See, this method is very common. I told you, through the mail we can send it. It's not expensive also. So if whoever, but the advantage is that if you are able to collect the information, this is the best method for collecting information. But the limitation is also there, because most of the people will not reply. Because when you see that the questionnaire itself, it will be few pages. Everybody is living in a busy world now. So if you see that so many questions and it will take so much time, and sometimes you have to give personal information, you will not be ready to do that. So if we can cancel these disadvantages, or we can remove these disadvantages, then this is the best method for collecting information, because there are no expenses involved. Sending a mail, you don't have to spend anything. You can prepare the questionnaire and you can send it to your correspondents, or you can send it to your contacts through the mail, and you can collect the information. So the third point I mentioned, that questionnaire is mailed to the respondents. Whoever you want to collect the information, they are sending it through the mail. Earlier it was post, now it is the mail. So there is no expenses also involved. Post means you have to pay the postage. Now it's mail, you can send it, it's completely free. Now respondents are expected to send back the fill forms within the stipulated time. So I told you there will be usually a one paragraph, first the introduction. I am so and so, I am doing research, or I am doing a particular PhD program, and I want to collect information. So that is why I am sending you this information. So like that, they will give you the explanation, and they will request you within 10 days or within 15 days, please complete this questionnaire and send it back to us. Now, continuing with this, merits of this method, it's very economical. I already mentioned that if you are sending by mail, there is no expenses involved. Now, extensive inquiries anywhere from the globe, if they cooperate, if the respondents are willing to give the information, willing to send the filled questionnaire, this is the best method possible. Then bias of the investigator can be avoided. Sometimes people may be irritating. See, sometimes when you are in a hurry, when you are busy doing something, if somebody will come and ask you for information, you will not be ready to give the information. But this, you are not meeting the investigator. Whenever their respondents are free, they can use their time, and in their free time they can fill the questionnaire and they can send. So this is the advantage. Now, demerits of this method: high degree of non-response. You have to remember that. See, I can tell you my own personal experience. Sometimes when we are living in a very busy world and very hectic activities, so if I'll get a questionnaire, most of the time I will not fill that. So we will just delete that. So that is the high degree of non-response. If you can avoid this limitation, this is the best method of data collection. So no scope for collecting additional information. See, some methods, in the earlier methods I have explained that if the investigator can use his skill and tactics in collecting the information, they can collect additional information. In my own research, I have experienced that some respondents are giving additional information which were valuable insights for the research. Whereas in this method, since the investigator is not meeting the respondents directly, it is not possible to collect direct additional information from the respondents. Now, respondents are not willing to give personal information. See, if somebody will ask me to fill the questionnaire with my income, with my tax I am paying, with my expenditure, I may not be willing to do that. Most of the respondents are like that. They are not ready to give personal information. Or if somebody will ask about my drug addiction, alcoholism, or anything like that, respondents are not willing to give the answer. So they are not willing to give the personal information. Now, the fifth method is method of schedules. So this is related to the fourth method, collecting questionnaire from the mailed using the mail method, you are using collecting the questionnaire. So this is related. So method of schedules. So there is a difference between schedule and questionnaire. See, in the questionnaire we have seen that the investigator is not meeting the respondent. It is sent to the respondents. They are filling in their own handwriting. Here the difference is that the instrument is the same. You are using the questionnaire. The investigator is using the questionnaire. But the difference is that the investigator is having the questionnaire with him and he is collecting information from the respondents directly in a face-to-face manner. So this is an important point you have to remember. Schedule is a questionnaire used by the enumerator to collect information from the respondents in a face-to-face manner. See, for example, I explained that when I was doing my research, I had my questionnaire with me and I met the respondents directly and I collected the information in a face-to-face manner. I will fill the questionnaire here in this case. Whereas in the previous method, what I have explained, the respondents are filling the questionnaire. So this is the difference between questionnaire and a schedule. Schedule, the investigator is collecting information in a face-to-face manner. So that is the first one. Whereas in questionnaire, the respondents are filling the questionnaire. So this is, you have to remember that. And second difference, you have to remember that in the previous method, the investigator is not meeting the respondents directly. Whereas in method of schedules, investigator is meeting the respondents directly. Then the second point I want to explain, enumerator is filling the questionnaire. That I already explained. In method of schedule, the investigator or the enumerator is filling the questionnaire. Third is most widely used method for collecting primary data. See, the previous method I explained that when you are getting a mail to fill a long questionnaire, many people will not fill that and send it back. There will be high degree of non-response. Whereas this method is different. That means you can take an appointment, whatever their convenient time. You can go and convince them about your research and you have the need for collecting the data. So they will cooperate. So this is the most widely used method for collecting primary data. Now the fourth point is this method is free from other methods as the enumerator is directly collecting information from the respondents. So you can avoid that. If somebody is trying to give wrong information, you can easily make out from the face communication, or you can easily, the way they are giving the information, you can easily make out and you can keep a watch of that, whatever the data they are giving. If it's not reliable information, avoid that respondent from your survey. Then you will get the reliable information. So this method can give you whether they are giving the reliable information or not, because you are collecting the information in a face-to-face manner. Now, merits of scheduled method. So the first point is problem of non-response can be avoided, because I told you, you are taking an appointment and you are asking for their convenient time. You are talking to the level of communication, whatever the language they are comfortable. That way you are collecting the information. So its non-response can be avoided. Second is enumerators can convince the respondents the need for sharing the information. Why I am doing a research on drug addiction among students, alcoholism among students, because these numbers are increasing. It's a cause of concern for parents. It's a cause of concern for educational institutions. It's a cause of concern for teachers. That's why I'm collecting the information. So we can share that information. Then the respondents also will cooperate with the sharing the information. Third is useful for extensive survey, as the results will be reliable if the enumerators are trained. See, usually when they'll go for method of schedule is some funding will be there. That means they will get the funding. So they can appoint correspondents, they can appoint enumerators, and they can be supervisors. They are all will be trained. They will be trained about what is the need for doing this research, how they have to collect the information. Each and every question will be analyzed and will be communicated to them how they have to collect the information. What are the methods of data collection they are going to use, analysis they are going to use. So when they are trained about that, they will collect the correct information. Then even if the respondents are illiterate, this method can be used, because you are collecting directly the information. So you can collect the information directly. If they are not able to write, you can write for them and you can collect the information. So that is another important point. Even if the respondents are illiterate, we can use this method of schedules. Then enumerator can use his skills in collecting information. I have seen people, those who are very good in communicating and they are very good in collecting information from others. Such people, if they will collect the information from others, they can collect additional information. They can go in depth to the problem and they can collect the information. This is another important thing. You can reach the level of the respondent and you can make them comfortable. So they will be sharing more information. Now, demerits of schedule method. The first point you have to remember, it's an expensive method. See, I told you, if there is a funding, then only this method will be practical. That means you have to spend lot of money for training them, appointing correspondents, appointing respondents, appointing supervisors, because it's an expensive method. They have to travel a lot, they have to meet the respondents directly, they have to spend time for that, collecting the questionnaire. Sometimes they may not be ready to give the appointed time, they may not be ready to meet you. So you have to wait for that. All these things will come. It's an expensive method. Second one is, success of this method depends on the skill of the enumerator. See, enumerator should be able to come to the level of the respondent if you want to be successful for collecting this information from the respondents. So it's very important. You have to talk to the communication level, talk to the language they are comfortable, think about their comfort level, think about their convenient time. All this, the enumerator's skill is very important in collecting information. Next is, schedule has to be drafted properly, otherwise it will not give expected outcome. If you are going into a person who is extremely busy, see for example, if you have to collect information from company CEOs, if you are going with a schedule with 10 pages or 5 pages, they will not have the time. Whereas if you are going to a CEO with 1 page questions and immediately you can collect the information, they will be willing to help you. So you have to remember that whom you are going to collect the information, how much time is needed, what is the time you can spend with them. All this had to be considered when you're framing the schedule. Otherwise, it will not give the expected outcome. Now, the next point I want to explain is qualities of a good questionnaire. So the first one is, questionnaire should be brief. I told you if you're getting a lengthy questionnaire, nobody will be interested in answering that. Second one is simple, clear and unambiguous questions. Are you married or not married? Are you married? Yes or no? So you can give the simple and clear questions. So they are able to answer immediately. Nature of questions, simple and alternate questions. What is the level of your education? Pre-degree, degree, post-graduation, PhD. Like that you can give options. So that is, another option is multiple choice questions. What is your marital status? Married, unmarried, widow, separated, divorced. All these multiple choice questions you can give. Next is specific information questions. See, if you are asking about, if you cannot ask a drug addict, are you a drug addict or you are an alcoholic? They will not give you the information. Or sometimes people get offended if you are asking directly about their salary, their income, their expenses, their savings, their loan. So specific questions can be avoided. If you want to collect personal information, you can collect it in a proper way. That means you can ask some additional information and you can get the information what you are trying to collect. Then open questions. See, if you are giving open questions, it will be difficult for analysis. See, open questions usually should be avoided from the schedule. If you are asking, what is your general opinion about this research? That COVID, how the COVID has affected in your life. If you are an open question, if everybody will be giving different choices, then it will be difficult for tabulation and for analysis. So open questions usually people will avoid from the questionnaire. Then use of proper words in the questions. It should not be, when you're framing a questionnaire, it should not be hurting anyone. If you're asking a person who is a transgender, all these things you have to avoid that. So proper words. So we are meeting a different crowd. So everybody's interest you have to keep it in mind when you're framing a questionnaire. Then the question should be such that answers are known to the respondents. See, if I will go and ask a person, what do you know about the tax structure of the country? They may not be ready to give the answer. They may not be knowing also. Or if the tax slabs of this year, they will not be able to give the answer. So such questions, difficult questions you have to avoid. Whatever their comfortable level, whatever they are able to answer, such questions only you can add in the schedule. Next is, question should be capable of objective answers. Yes or no answer. So what is your opinion about this? What is your opinion about opening of schools and colleges after lockdown or after COVID? So yes or no. They can give the clear-cut answer for that. Then personal questions should be avoided. Do you smoke? Do you take drugs? Do you drink alcohol? Or do you visit pub regularly? All these personal questions can be avoided because nobody will be willing to give such answer to a stranger. So this is what I want to explain with this module, and happy learning with Dr. Alice Mani. Thank you.